You're listening to a Pubhouse Network podcast for developers by developers.
Okay, hello and welcome to the Stacked podcast. Episode number 68, recorded on October 20th, 2023. I'm your host, Keto Man, and I'm here with my two awesome co-hosts, Josh Juno and Daniel Inahosa. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. You know, this is our first recording since, I think, late July.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while.
Yeah, so
it's a busy summer.
It has been a busy summer, and fortunately, we managed to schedule a couple in a row. So we'll record in October and November, and maybe we'll actually record in December too. That would be nice.
Yeah, except I think our last it wasn't July, was it?
I think it was late.
When we were talking about AI, AI one.
It was July or August. It was a long time ago. It just took forever to publish it, so it seems like it's recent.
It took forever to publish it.
Yes, we did.
I don't know.
Yes, this is a volunteer effort, Dano. You see.
Oh, I know, but we need to get Freddie on it. I don't know what's going on. I'm just kidding.
Yes, no. This one, I swear, if you're listening to this and it's not at least, and it's any later than November, it's not my fault. That's right.
It's out of your hands.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. What have you guys been up to in the last couple of months? How'd your summer go?
Summer's rough. You know what? I have a theory that we are trained as kids to like have kind of like a vacation and enjoy the summer. And then when September and October roll around, we give ourselves way too much work. Like we're just forcing ourselves to be busy. And I think there's this weird thing behind all our brains, just the way we were schooled or whatever. And maybe kids in summer school are always busy, but I think that's what happens. Because my summer was like, I had so many vacations, it was amazing. Like I was like, this is the greatest summer ever. Like for a 51-year-old who hasn't had like a decent vacation since he was 16. Heck yeah, man, this was really great. But then September and October roll around and I'm like, what happened? I'm in tears. It's not like I lost my customers or anything. I'm just, that's my theory.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, mine went too fast as usual. And for me, I don't feel like I have enough vacation, but I don't feel like but then I don't know. I'm just never satisfied. That's basically what it is. I think that's essentially what the deal is. So
I took a lot of half days and went to the pool.
Nice.
Hey, I like that.
That's how you stretch out your vacation. You take half days or quarter days.
That's true.
I think that's a lot of what I do, actually. And I think that's why I don't really, I feel like, I worked less than I normally do. And I have like one actual vacation, but yeah.
I'm always at the pool since that's my exercise. And I'm kind of glad it's fall. Like I like summer, but everyone wants to go to the swimming pool and I do it for a workout.
Yeah.
And like I have kids, just like jumping in, getting in the lanes, like in the swimming lanes. It's rough. And I try to keep my cool, but sometimes, parents aren't watching the kids or the kids don't understand what a swimming lane is. And so, I'm have to duck, dive and, go around them or whatever. Yeah.
That's adding to the workout. Obstacles.
That's right.
Like an obstacle course.
Yeah. Kids.
Indeed. So I guess I can just introduce our guest here. So hi, Jeanne.
Yeah.
Hi.
So this is Jeanne Boyarsky. I'm sorry, did I pronounce your last name right? I should have asked
you
before we started recording. Okay, cool. So Jeanne is another fellow Java champion, and I've had the pleasure of running into her at different conferences. And she works at a bank in New York. And is the author of several Java certification books. And Jeanne, I was actually trying to figure out which ones you wrote, and I just see like a list of like 20. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's all in how you count. So we wrote the books for Java 8, Java 11, and Java 17, but there's 2 or 3 books for each. And then for some of them, they combined 2 of the books and called them a kit. So it's listed as more books than it actually is. But I'm going to say it's 8 or 9 legit books.
Nice.
Okay. Hey, Jeanne, if we all like gather some money right now and we pay for your certification to take it right now. What's your score? How do you think you would score?
Probably 50 or 60. There are definitely some things I relearn every time I review for the exam.
Yeah.
I would definitely not pass if I was taking the
that-
exam right now.
50
you're saying
out of what?
Out of 100.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. And I needed a reference range there. So
Wait, 50, that's 50%. You think you would score 50 without prep?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because there are
Okay.
pieces of it that I know well and don't change.
right.
But then there are other pieces where it's like, oh, that's right. That's the API and that's how it works.
Right.
Ouch.
That means
Ouch.
I would get like a 30 or a 20, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what Brian gets would be like. We pay for Brian's certification, which is like certify. It'd be weird. Like irony, he gets 10. No,
Writing the books
I-
helps you though, because you've trained yourself to look for various tricks and various things that are going to come up, and those stick with you. What doesn't
Right.
stick with you is the APIs you don't use. For
Mhm.
example, Scott writes the concurrency chapter and does a lot of advanced concurrency stuff for his job, and I use Parallel Stream. So I remember
Yeah.
Thread and Run and Start and Parallel Stream, and that there's a bunch of other stuff. On the rare
Yeah.
occasions I use the other stuff at work, I look at the Java doc. So if you were to ask me right now, I would probably get 0 of the thread and concurrency questions correct because I don't use it.
Yeah. It certainly
You
is
know
true
what? Yeah. Go
that,
ahead.
if you're not using something at least on a weekly basis, it certainly goes
Yeah.
out of the brain. No matter if you learn it or just, get down there, and even if you're working with it for a week, if you go a
Mhm.
couple of months without using it, yeah.
It's
forgot.
gone. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's some
Yeah.
stuff that's just flat out so tricky that you're going to lose 10% of the points, even if you know the stuff perfectly.
Ooh.
Also, now that they don't do the
Wow.
beta anymore, sometimes questions are wrong. I was an early adopter on the Java 17 exam. They might have accidentally released it too early because after I took it, they pulled the exam for a couple months. But there were several errors where there were questions where there were 0 or multiple answers that were clearly correct. And I tried to memorize as much as I could to report it to Oracle, but that's tough because you can't write anything down. So like I couldn't have gotten a perfect score because it was impossible to answer some of the questions. Like, all right, well, none of the
Wow.
answers are correct. I shall pick one.
Wow. You make it sound like there's a Kobayashi Maru
And then they pulled the exam.
scenario.
And then a little later they released it, and Scott took the exam and he said that there weren't errors in the questions. So, lucky him.
What? Oh my
But I did
gosh.
pass even
Wow.
with the buggy exam.
Hmm.
That's good.
And
Wow.
so for those who don't know, Scott is your co-author, right?
Yes, Scott Selikoff. He lives in New Jersey.
And
So I have a question. What's testing like post-COVID or during COVID? Because I know when I took mine back in 1997
Mhm.
and 98, because I failed the first time. But I remember when I took it, it was, in person. It had a proctor and you had a little whiteboard and that was it. And they just kept an eye on you.
Right.
Obviously,
So
that was a
right
no-go.
after things reopened from COVID, it was like that, except that you were wearing a mask, and I had to complain that the person next to me took his mask off because I'm stuck in this room with no ventilation with someone without a mask. But after that, Oracle switched to pure online testing, so you take it from home or your office now. There is no more.
So I hear like a lot of those because I do stuff for Confluent, and like you got to do this and
Yes.
move your camera around and make sure there's nothing near you.
Right, which is tough in a New York City apartment in one room, right? Because they're like, make sure the room doesn't have writing materials in it. Would you like me to be
Yeah.
in the bathroom? So
That's
I
right.
went into this little hallway where I was next to the bathroom and some closets, and then
Oh,
why are we
no.
sitting there and not like in a proper table? Like, because this is the only place I can be in my entire apartment that meets your requirements.
that's
Wow. Neighbors yelling at each other, yelling, forget about it. And oh my gosh, yeah, just pure chaos.
So do you is it just timed basically? You
Yeah.
have to sit there for 2 hours or something and do it?
I think it's 90 minutes now. They've made it shorter since back in the day.
Okay.
That part I like.
Uh-huh. I remember, and I don't know if they do this anymore, but I remember at the time, so 90s or, right after Java, maybe a few years after Java came out, I remember the questions were stump the C++ programmers, because most programmers migrated from C++. So they would show like reasonable C++, but it was never a thing in Java.
Yeah.
I don't know if they mix it up, because I'm not sure people who come to Java are from C++, but I don't know if they still have those trips along the way.
There are plenty of tricks, but they're not designed for people from specific languages anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Never
Yes.
taken the Java certification. I probably should. I'm an Oracle database certified administrator.
What? Wow.
I took those in the early 2000s and they were tricky, but never done Java. I should.
I tried to take I can't remember. This must have been like maybe late 1900s or early 2000s. I tried to take there was like Java Enterprise Architect one or something like that.
Oh, I took that one. I remember that.
Yeah, and I got really far, but then I got to like the Take It Home project or something, and I was really busy, and I was just, I don't have time to do all this.
That's the thing. Yeah. Those exams are hard because you're busy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't even remember. I don't even think I got scored. I think I just fell off the bandwagon, which is
Yeah.
but not like that would have been terribly useful these days. But but it was interesting. There were some interesting questions on that one. Do they have that
one? I liked it because you got to design. They called it architecture, but it was more like design a system. And at that point in my career, I hadn't gotten a lot of chances to do it, so it was nice to be able to.
Yeah, and I thought. Thinking there were some questions that were kind of interesting. Like, is it just now the language exam, or do they have any other ones? Because they used to have like a few different ones, I remember.
They have a couple of others that they haven't gotten rid of, but they also haven't updated them yet.
Okay.
So I think they'll eventually become stale and go away, whereas the Java language exam keeps getting updated for each LTS.
Right.
Oh, so we expect a 21 here soon. That's going to be brutal.
Yeah. I don't work for Oracle, so I'm not allowed to make statements on this, but I would expect a 21.
So
virtual threads.
Yeah.
Do we have to paste that disclaimer thing on our podcast notes now? The big Oracle. That's my joke.
No, none of us work for Oracle. We're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that would be kind of fun. But yeah, it's a big language. Like
There's a lot.
It's a huge language. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, I want to get more into this to you and your background and more questions. But before we do that, let's just we have just a few news items, not that many this time. So the first thing is Jakarta EE 11 release plan timeline is shaping up, I should say. If you, for those who follow Jakarta EE stuff, 10 came out last year, and 11 they're working on, and we're currently like figuring out a timeline and what's going into it and all that kind of stuff. And currently that's scheduled for, is it quarter 1 20? Nah, it's not going to be quarter 1 2024. It's going to be 2024 though.
Q2, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense.
Last time I looked.
Yeah, so and so it's basically just going to have updates to a lot of the different specifications. And there's also going to be, I'm looking at a few new specifications. So there's actually been some new Jakarta E specifications, believe it or not. So there's Jakarta Data, which is sort of like the Spring Repository API. Jakarta MVC has been around for a long time. That's just more like just an MVC framework for web apps. But Jakarta NoSQL is new. As well, and that's kind of nice. And I think one of them is going to be in Jakarta 11. I'm not going to say which one made it, but that's kind of nice to see at least some evolution on new technologies coming out of Jakarta E.
Yeah.
And Josh, I heard something about Spring being interested in like Jakarta Data or something. Was I hearing things?
Are we getting
Perhaps.
together? That's right.
No, I can tell you that, and I talked to a lot of Spring developers, and I know that Jakarta E is definitely part of Spring. They utilize some of the Jakarta E APIs and specifications, but I've not heard anything about Jakarta Data in Spring.
Okay, so maybe I was hearing things, but yeah, I was thinking recently. It's like Now Jakarta E is alive. There's no reason we couldn't have some standardization across both technologies again, because I kind of want to make sure that no matter what happens with Spring or what happens with Jakarta EE, we always have like, some set of APIs that are good for building these kind of services, long term.
Just like I have always thought, it's always good to have more than one tool in the tool shed. And then you have different types of applications and services. Some of them are, Spring is great for something, and Jakarta EE might be a better choice for some other project.
Always.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we've got some tool news. There's a new NetBeans.
You know what? We should have like intros whenever we change topics like this. Like someone's just saying tool news. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
There was a time where we used little sound effects for new sections. We can go back to that.
Yeah. Sounds of construction tool news.
Yes.
All right, NetBeans, which is kind of related to some other news, I think. Yeah, but go ahead.
So NetBeans is out. It's available. And, of course, the release candidates are available. Release candidates.
Version.
NetBeans 20.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Sorry. I'm talking too fast. So, NetBeans 20. Of course, I am focused on my area, so I know that there are a lot of Jakarta EE updates in NetBeans 20. So I'm looking forward to using that. I use NetBeans 19 every day. There are some issues here and there. Hopefully they'll be ironed out. And of course, I did not get a chance to work on this piece at all. Just too much going on. But there's been some great development going on in the community for NetBeans. So it's definitely alive and kicking and moving forward. And JDK 21 is certainly supported and everything. So
wow, that's fast. Yeah, Jeanne, what's your IDE of choice?
At home, I use mainly IntelliJ because I'm working on like a specific thing at a time. At work, I use a mix of Eclipse and IntelliJ at the same time. There are some features I like better in each of them. In particular, in Eclipse, I like being able to work on like different little scattered things that may or may not relate to each other. And I also like to do bad refactorings where you break all of the code and use the compilers to find them. IntelliJ doesn't play well with that. And when I'm doing heads down development on a more specific task, I like IntelliJ, but then I'll like the search better in one or the other. So I'll just use them both. But as long as you're using a proper build tool, this is fine. And one of the cool things about using them both is I'm equally comfortable when I pair with teammates from either camp.
That's good.
That is a good thing.
Yeah.
And then on the robotics team, we use VS Code.
Gotcha. So you've got all three. That's cool. But those are like the three I usually work with too, because unfortunately, I have not used NetBeans in a long time, Josh. But I honestly, though, I'm not a fan of Eclipse so much. I've used it on some projects because we decided on that project that was the tool to use and everything. And also Bake, my core teammate, he's an Eclipse guy. But on one project, I got him to use IntelliJ, and he complains about it, but he got the hang of it, so it's good. And I like this.
Yeah, that's cool. When one's inefficient, usually complain about efficiency. I'm just kidding. No.
Well, I think it's one of those things. It's like I've never been. Some people are like super, and you're probably like this, Jeanne. Like you're good at like learning all the little ins and outs of using the tool, and you get to do it really fast with it. So he's like that. So when you start using IntelliJ, he's like, how do I do this? What kind of key combination do I use? Like,
It helps that IntelliJ has the master keyboard shortcut. So when you don't know something, it's like, all right, fine, whatever.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
I definitely found coming from NetBeans that, I've worked with IntelliJ a few times, and there's a learning curve. It's different. The way that projects are managed and whatnot, it's different. So, I can do it, but I just prefer the NetBeans because I'm so used to it.
Has anyone ever tried the new UI in IntelliJ?
Yes, I use it. Beautiful.
I tried it, but then I couldn't find anything. They hide like half the features. So. I was like, I can't use it.
Yeah.
But it is nice. I think I found there was a team I was working with where some of them were new to IntelliJ and they preferred the new UI because I think it was less cluttered. Like,
Yeah. I'm ready to pull the plug on tabs because Jeanne was in one of my sessions over at UberConf where I had like a two session IntelliJ. And I think by doing that session, I've really, gotten really good at IntelliJ. That I was watching one of the JetBrains videos, and they were like, just get rid of the tabs. Why need the tabs? There's no reason, once you get all those key efficiencies down, you don't need tabs and get some more space out of it.
But tabs for what? I mean, for different.
The tabs up at the top. You know how IDEs usually have the tabs up top. Yeah, they were like, if you know how to navigate on the keyboard without having ever to use a tab, I think that's a good point.
You can just jump to whatever screen you want, but you get a pop up, right? There's like a window pop up switcher thing. Is that what you?
Yeah, and I'll make this as part of my pick. If you're an IntelliJ person, there's a Command Shift E and a Control Shift E that will go to your last location. I think that was probably a pick from before. But that key command is so great because that has your history and you could just jump to wherever you were editing 2 or 3, 4 times ago. Yeah.
Yes. See, I unfortunately was never good at memorizing key codes. When it's stupid that I waited, because if I become good at it in my 20s, it'd be much better than it is now trying to remember them.
Nah, come on, I'm 51, man.
No, I've actually started really trying. I've gotten better. I'm still not an expert. Actually,
I pick a few I want to learn at any given time and put them on my whiteboard so that every time I get up or sit down,
oh, cool, that's nice.
That until I get tired of looking at it, and by then I know it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a great idea.
I've been using.
I like that.
What is it? And I'll add this as a pick, or I'll put it in the show notes. The IntelliJ has this plugin that like complains every time you do something and don't use the shortcut.
Yeah, it's X Enforcer or something like that. Yeah.
That was so annoying.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like there's so many. It's telling me about so many of them. It's not like I'm memorizing.
It's like your drill sergeant. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like you've
and it tells you how many times too. It's like you've forgotten the shortcut 82 times. It's like I'm not trying to learn that shortcut. Thank you.
Right, exactly. It's like clearly I don't care at this point.
Leave me alone. For the love of God, leave me alone. I'm trying my best to program
after
here.
A few weeks, I was like, I can't.
I should, Jeanne. I might switch to your idea. That might be a good way to do it. So,
yeah, I do that with. So I have cheat sheets, but I actually use it on Vim. So I have various cheat sheets, and I'll usually keep the things that I need to memorize for the next step. So I'll always go to that cheat sheet and try to remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the physical idea is good though, and we have these little whiteboards that I just put like a little one right in front of me.
Yeah, I accepted a job to teach Visual Studio Code, even though I don't use Visual Studio Code. Really I know sometimes I'm crazy like that, but I know so much about IntelliJ that I think I'm just going to list out all the things I know in IntelliJ and see if there's a mapping on Visual Studio Code, and I think it'll go great.
Dude, you should make a guide out of that.
Yeah. I don't want people to migrate over, but yeah, I'll do that. I'll happily do that.
We'll have to go back and forth, like
right.
A D-zone guide.
Yeah, you should.
D-zone. Cool. Yeah.
All right. So speaking of VS Code, Oracle has released a VS Code extension, and it's called the Oracle Java Platform extension for Visual Studio Code.
I like Platstorm more. Platstorm. Wow.
Oracle Java Platform Extension brings full-featured Java development, edit, compile, debug, and test cycle for Maven and Gradle projects to VS Code, and it's available in the Visual Studio Marketplace.
The thing I was mentioning to you but let's bring it out now. What does Red Hat think of this? Because Red Hat has the Java plugin. And so is this competition? Are they like, okay, open source is open source. What's going on here? So does that say anything? Like what they think?
I have no idea, but sure. I'm now very curious.
I do remember they did a small presentation on this at Java 1 last year.
Uh-huh.
I think it was
Oracle,
like
you
a
mean?
demo in the keynote. Yeah,
Okay.
Oracle.
And I would think Red Hat is so far ahead. Like, I'm kind of surprised they took on this, but maybe they put some people and money into it. So, oh well. Competition's good, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. You know, in a perfect world, they would all work together, but that never seems to happen. So,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say the genius thing of VS Code is the language server.
Mhm.
And no IDE has that. So not even IntelliJ. And I think IntelliJ was caught off guard because they are slow to adopt like new languages, and they do it kind of in-house. Whereas
Yep.
Visual Studio Code was like, boom, here's a language server. If you even create a new language, you already have, you can create your own support for this IDE.
Yeah.
And so that just drew everyone
nice.
in, and just like, yeah, that's the thing. That's the value of it.
Yeah, and I noticed this back in like several years ago. I was working with Polymer, which was a front end library for helping you build web components. And they had support language, and they had a built-in language service and VS Code. I mean, couldn't use it in IntelliJ or WebStorm,
Right.
ever. And WebStorm, I mean, and JetBrains came out with their own kind of half-baked like plugin, which barely anything compared to the VS Code one.
Yeah.
And, there were all these people complaining about it, and then they basically said, like, in the issue tracker, like, our architecture doesn't support the language service. The way they've written stuff, they can't. It's not like you can plug it, like, but they do have this. They have a new IDE they're working on. I don't remember what it's called, but
yeah, I'm trying to bring it up here, but I'm on my MacBook Air, so it's like really slow.
Yeah, but if there's, I would assume that they will do
Fleet. Yeah, I think it was called Fleet.
Is that the new one? Oh yes, next generation. Yes.
Where they're using a language server behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like, I mean, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't know that was available now. I'm gonna have to sign up now. Cool. Yeah, it looks like VS Code to me, but I'm sure it's not the same. But yeah, because that's a brilliant idea, and I think it's actually just a REST interface, because that's how they're able to work, distributed.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway. All right, so one more piece of news for tools. So IntelliJ, or JetBrains, has also released Writerside, which is a new technical environment for writing documentation. So it's for writing, testing, build, and publishing tutorials, API references, how-to, etc. Has support for docs as a code pipeline, Markdown, and XML combined. I'm not really sure how that works. And all these other features like live preview, etc. And as someone who's been working on documentation lately, what this sounds to me like is, basically giving you the whole IDE, but also giving you like a publishing platform as well. Has the idea of live preview and stuff like that. My impression is that they basically took all their experience. They probably had an in-house framework for publishing documentation, and they polished it and integrated it with an IntelliJ or in JetBrains style IDE, and that's easy. So it sounds like a great tool if you don't already have something in place, or if you want to replace what you had for your documentation publishing pipeline. For us, for the Jakarta EE tutorial, we're using Antora, which is open source, for a publishing pipeline. So I am using ASCII doc instead of Markdown. So this isn't something we would use, but I think it looks pretty cool for teams that aren't.
I don't know, because here's the thing. I do ASCII Doctor all the time. I use ASCII Doctor plus Reveal.js. And I've got, I've invested so much time because I create lots of material, and I don't want to waste time, because I'd rather just, create star bullet points and just put it together. My IntelliJ does a fantastic job with ASCII Doctor.
Yeah, it does.
And the grammar checking too is just like, wow, this is an amazing tool.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be.
Good.
Yeah, but anyways, just I think writer side may have ASCII Doctor. I would assume so because it's already
It might be in
a
there.
part of it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. And
maybe
you
they
know,
didn't market it.
and you've got a good point there though, because the other thing is that IntelliJ has a really good Antora plugin as well. So when we're
Oh,
doing
really?
stuff with ASCII Doc, it is like great. Like it understands references between things and all sorts.
Yeah. Oh, so much
So
fun.
my question, and we also I've been using Grazy Pro. So Grazy is their sort of, the language spell checker thing, but the Pro version does a little bit of AI cloud stuff and gives you like, lets you change the tens. It complains about more stuff and stuff. So I don't
Is
know.
it pronounced Grazie or Grazie for Italian? Thank you.
It probably is Gotzi. That would make more sense.
Let's go with Grazie.
This is the
Just like
seeing. I don't know.
yeah, like I think one of my picks from yesteryear was K9s, which is like a terminal that you could use with Kubernetes. I kept calling it K9s, 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 and then I was doing a presentation for Denver Jug, and Matt Rabel like interrupts me. It's K9s. And there's a picture of a dog, and I'm like, you know what? That makes sense.
Yeah, I got corrected because I was what is it CRAC it stands for
What does that stand for?
the checkpoint restore feature that's in it's a proposed OpenJDK feature
Wow.
and I said CRC in a presentation. They're like, no, it's crack.
Oh yeah,
It's crack.
Yeah.
CRAC.
It's crack, man. I would call it crazy. Like that would be great.
Yeah, that would be cool.
All right.
All right. So there's one more thing I wanted to mention about server-side Java. For those who've listened to the podcasts, you may have noticed that my company's been working on the Jakarta EE tutorial.
Cool.
I will put in the show notes a link to the project. We're still, finishing up working on it, but we basically refactored it and made it, put it into Antora format and all that kind of stuff. But the project is now like mature enough where people can like look at it and create issues and stuff like that. So I'll put the link in the show. It's too long actually.
Wonderful.
So,
Wonderful.
It's kind of a fun thing. All right, so we will now mention AI ML topic. Dun dun dun. Here's your sound effect. Is that good? Anyways. All right, so Oracle has released the Guardian AI open source project. I just saw an announcement about this today, and I was intrigued. So it's called the Oracle Guardian AI open source project, and it's a library consisting of tools to assess fairness, bias, and privacy of machine learning models and data sets. The package contains fairness and privacy estimation modules. And I thought that was pretty interesting. The fairness module offers tools to help you diagnose and understand the unintended bias present in your data set. And the privacy estimation module helps estimate potential leakage of sensitive information in the training data through attacks on ML models. So this is not really an area that I do a lot of work in, but I was intrigued to see this from the Oracle perspective. I didn't know they had any AI related open source. They may have others I don't know about. This is in Python, but it's just nice to see. And also the focus I'm very intrigued with because I've been paying a lot of attention to bias in machine learning stuff for many years. And so it's nice to see a tool to help with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool.
Yep. So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
This is just a site that I found recently. I've not really played with it, but it's called GPT-0. It's basically you paste in some text to it, and it'll tell you if it's generated by GPT-4, Bard, or whatever.
Okay.
So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
If I were
something for teachers, huh?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. If I were a teacher, I'd be all over this.
Yeah, I was talking with Venkat Subramaniam yesterday because he's a professor, and he's like, I don't care, use whatever you want. I'll get you in the second round. And so what he does is like he gives them something to do, and gives them a challenge, and then they'll come in and return it, and he's like, okay, refactor it, make it modern, or what's the problem with this, and then he makes them suffer that way, which I think is genius. Accept what there is, but realize that it's just AI. Yeah, so I thought that was great.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Good idea.
Yeah, I have a new presentation on AI coding tools, and I did it at Jax London a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And you know how it is. When you're preparing for a presentation, you do more research, right? So I tried all these great AI tools, which was a lot of fun. And a lot of them have these refactoring features, or improve whatever. And I've never really bothered using those. I just use the basic code completion stuff normally, or I ask questions. There's it's great. They're great for configuration files. Like I need a configuration file to do X, but there was some snippet of code that was actual real code that we're using for something, and it was an open source project, or it was an internal project. It wasn't not a client project, just to be clear. And I pasted it in and said, okay, refactor this. And it did, and there was a variable to keep track of some value. And it's like, and I got rid of this unnecessary variable, whatever. And I'm like, So then I read its solution, and then read the original code, and I'm like, oh, okay, so there's one case that your code, the original code covered, that yours completely misses now that you refactored it. So I told it that. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then it added the variable back. And I'm like, oh, geez, that's really scary. It's like, you're going to refactor your code with it and then just let it go without, reviewing it. That would be bad. Anyways, that's my story.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
Yeah, it is. I really think part of the job security for senior developers is going to be debugging bad code, which we're pretty used to doing anyways. So there'll just be more of it to debug.
So instead of cursing the person that came before you, you curse the AI that came before you.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I'm not really sure how that helps junior developers. That's kind of what I'm worried about.
I don't know. You know what? TDD now more than ever. I'm going to go with that, because AI is not TDD. I mean, TDD, you're focusing on what you want, and that's so much better. And now we have AI driven development. That's just going to be a mess.
Well, maybe what we need, we write the test and get the AI to write the code to satisfy the tests.
Hey, I like that.
There you go.
You know what? That is a good idea. Just, tell me what you think this ought to be, and just every step of the way, so you don't have to you cut down your work, but you keep an eye on it as you grow it. I like that a lot.
Not a
bad idea.
All right, one more news item. JDK 21 LTS is out. Woohoo!
Hey.
I think this is one of the biggest releases, I think, because all of these features they've been working on for many years are finally released, right? So
lots of them are.
Virtual threads, pattern matching for Switch. And I finally start bugging my clients. I'm like, guys, please stop using JDK 8. And a lot of what we're working on refactoring stuff. So we're like, okay, can we please upgrade to JDK 21? They're like, no, it just came out. It's like,
it's not like they're crappy engineers who do Java.
I'm like, it's a production release, and then you got to explain all the LTS licensing stuff. LTS doesn't mean.
Oh man, I get so angry with that excuse. Yeah, totally.
So just for our listeners, one of you guys want to take a stab at the LTS explanation? You might do it better than me.
Jeanne.
All right.
So LTS stands for long-term support. When you have Java, you can use any version you want, but certain versions, now it used to be every 3 years, now it's every 2 years, are designated as long-term support. And the vendors have agreed that they're going to provide patches and paid support for people who want paid support for those versions for longer. So if you're on Java 20, patches pretty much stopped already. If you're on 21, they're going to continue for many years.
Right. That was wonderful. Yeah, because the thing that tripped me up was it's all vendor specific. It's not Oracle through the specification that's providing the patches to you. It's whatever vendor, and that vendor may not even agree to it. Is that correct? I don't know if that's correct, Jeanne.
Yeah, no, the vendors have the choice to agree to it. And back when it was a 3-year cycle, Azul invented medium term support for 1.5 years because they felt 3 years was too long. That's sort of a moot point now that it's 2 years. But all of that stuff is vendor driven. It's just if the vendors don't agree, the ecosystem is a mess. So they all agreed to 3 years. And then when Oracle said, hey, how about 2 years? Everyone said, okay, fine, it'll be 2 years. But they all agreed, and that allowed it to be a community thing and a definition. Before they agreed, it was a wish. So when Oracle announced it, it was still a wish. And then it became a real thing.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
I guess any vendor is free to support stuff longer if they want to, but that's a vendor specific.
Oh,
Right.
how long the LTSs are supported vary greatly. And any vendor could say, oh, I'm going to support Java 19 and 20 forever. But, they don't, because that's not the spirit of the LTS. But how long an LTS is supported is not defined anywhere and not a standard. All the vendors have different end dates.
Okay.
Because they're not saying the LTS is supported for 3 years. They're saying it will be supported for a long time. And, a long time could be 5 years. It could be 8 years. It could be 10 years. Who knows?
Right.
Fun fact on that, Java 8 is supported by the vendors for longer than Java 11. The idea being if you were able to upgrade to 11, it's not an ordeal to upgrade to 17. But if you haven't started, you have to get yourself past 9 in modules. So we're going to give you longer to do it.
Goes to like 2026 or something, doesn't it?
Something like that.
If you are paying for 8.
There's different levels of how much you can pay, and it depends on which vendor you use. It's just funny that they don't go in order and that you can use 8 longer than you can use 11.
That is
right.
And just to be clear, like just to use the JDK, like all of them, and the Oracle one is still a little weird, like with the licensing. But all the other ones are pretty straightforward. You can use them as long as you want. Like you don't have to get support or pay for them. You're pretty.
I work for a bank. We care a lot about security patches and support of things.
Right.
No way. I'm just kidding. That's right. Yeah. I know the vendors make a lot of money on like people who are sticking around in JDK 7 and other things like that. So
oh my God.
Sometimes vendors will make a ton of money because companies don't want to move from their 7 or whatever.
I noticed that Oracle was last year did something really smart where they did all the performance enhancements they had in the recent JDKs and backported from the JDK 8 as part of the subscription. So I thought that was brilliant, like because those people are locked in for and longer.
There is so much fear. Like I don't know. I don't understand it. Just with the I got to stay at 8. And they hold on to that tree because they hug that tree and just like, no, you can't make me. And it's such the oddest thing because you get so many benefits from upgrading, but they're scared.
To be
it's
fair,
amazing.
upgrading from 8 to 11 sucked, but it sucked in the past. So at least we're past it now. Waiting doesn't make it easier.
Exactly. And and at least all the growing pains are done now. But what I've seen is that, there's one thing for huge enterprise, mission critical applications, but that whole sentiment trickles down into a lot of smaller apps where really it wouldn't be that big a deal to upgrade,
Right. Yeah,
is it because people, go ahead.
I was just going to say where I've seen it is when there are applications written in something like Swing that cannot really move past the, JDK 8 and you're stuck. You have to, unless you change your application or migrate to something else, you're stuck, but
that makes sense.
Yeah. My question though, and this is coming from the top of Mount Stupid, the Dunning-Kruger chart where, that one where it's like, you pick up a new technology and you reach Mount Stupid because you're like, I know everything about this. This is great. It's so easy. And then you realize you're not as bright as you are and you go through the pit of despair and all that. And maybe, so I'm definitely on Mount Stupid because I've never had to like migrate a big project. It seems big monoliths are the thing that make it hard to move from 8 to something else. But even if, why is it hard, or why do people suspect it's hard? Because I would assume, and again, I'm on Mount Stupid here, that you create a branch. It's a different lineage of development. You change that to 17 or 21, and see if it runs, and then maybe even deploy one of them as part of your scale, and like have the rest, run on there. And then if it doesn't work out, just pull it.
I can save you time. If you use any libraries, it won't work. So phase one of that is done. That's why it was hard, because of the split to modules. Things that used to be in the JDK were no longer in the JDK. So you had to upgrade all your libraries at the same time you were upgrading your version of Java. And historically, we haven't had to do that. You should still update your libraries, but you didn't have to time it with your JDK upgrade. That made things particularly challenging. There was also a lot that changed in XML parsing where we had to rewrite some stuff. So it was definitely an icky upgrade, but it was exactly because we couldn't do what you said that made it harder, right? When we upgraded from 1.3 to 1.4, 1.4 to 1.5, I don't remember. We did that. We got a couple error messages about the assert keyword. We changed them. We moved on with our lives, right? Going from 8 to 11 took on the order of weeks and not on the order of hours.
Okay. And I would think once you have that initial investment, you're 11 to, continually increasing.
Yeah, 11 to 17 had a couple of library things, but it wasn't bad. And I haven't tried 17 to 21 yet.
Yeah, I could see the library stuff. And I can see
what
like
happened
for
with 17 was that reflection changed. So Java is, slowly getting rid of reflection. So the things that made us from 11 to 17 were the reflection-based things that we weren't able to catch in time. We tried to get them all before we migrated, but we didn't get them all. So those were the things that were like, nope, can't do that anymore. Sorry.
Right. Especially the one that is, and I noticed this, it always comes up as a warning because you were able to, what was that thing where you made private fields public so that we could go access them?
Accessibility.
And I know, the accessibility, the set accessibility, that you could turn that on, and a lot of libraries were using that. And I get that from that 8 to 9, which 9 gives you warnings, but I think they ended the warnings on 17.
11 lets you do most of it. 17 cuts off a lot of it.
Right, that's what it was.
21 cuts off the rest, but again, I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably
the language part was fine. It was the rest of the ecosystem.
Yeah, okay, I get it now. All right.
People also are worried about the module system, I think. There's still fear if you're on Java 8 that modules are going to break everything, but
that's
I never really ran into that.
That's what you meant, Jeanne, about having to upgrade all your libraries, though, right? Because you had to upgrade to all the versions that had supported modules, right?
No, not supported modules, supported the new locations of things. So like where's XML Transformer? I'm still not using modules, and I don't recommend it for most business applications. So the modules thing only consisted of explaining to people why Oracle was going around saying use modules, and I'm saying you shouldn't use modules. It was the fact that the JDK itself was modularized that was the thing that caused the problems. It wasn't switching to modules. For a new app, sure. But for an existing application, the overhead of switching to modules is very high, and the benefits are not very high. And you do things that the business is going to be a good investment, and that was not one of them.
I guess. So here's what I think. What I was thinking is that if your library hadn't been updated to deal with those changes,
right? But it's the location that I cared about, not the module part that I cared about.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the thing I do like about modules, if you deploy onto Docker, then there's a huge win with that. Because you could do a JDEPS, find all of the modules that you need for your application, and then use a JLink to create your own version of the JRE with just the things that you need. And I think, Jeanne, correct me if I'm wrong, the motivation, one of the motivations was Java, like you said, just got too big, and to carry all that load along with your application didn't make sense anymore, particularly since most of us have moved to containers. So bringing along that huge JDK is like a bad idea.
Agreed.
Well, and one of my clients actually just reminded me about JREs because I forgot about them. Because he was like,
just carry along that compiler wherever you go, Keto.
I'm so used to even when I'm using a container, I use an image that has a JDK because I'm just what I'm used to doing.
No, oh wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm not DevOps. I don't do the production container. I mean,
No, I get you. I get you.
actually, I usually do build containers, and maybe that's why. Anyways,
Oh,
but yeah, it's like just using the JRE, you already get rid of a lot of crap. So, anyways,
wow. All right.
So JDK 21, just to close out. Yeah,
Beautiful.
record patterns, virtual threads. I'm going to do an informal poll. What is your favorite feature in JDK 21? Let's start with you, Josh.
I would say the virtual threads. I do like those.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of sessions that are using them, and I am looking forward to, since I'm kind of a Jakarta enterprise developer, looking forward to seeing the application servers make use of the virtual threading.
Yep.
That'll be very interesting.
Jeanne?
My favorite feature is a preview feature, but since it's not for production purposes, you can make an alias that maps the preview command to Java. It's the ability to not have to write the whole main method saga when starting, because when you're teaching new programmers, there's a lot of ceremony you have to tell them to ignore. And it's nice to be able to just get going. And if they're not setting it up, you can have the alias for Java enable preview 21 set already. And between single file source code execution and the not having the long main method, it is a nicer start to the language, and you can get them doing things before you circle back to, hey, here's a historical thing you might want to know about.
I did not know that was in preview.
Yeah.
It's like now. Do you know which one?
It's 21 in preview.
But yeah, right. If I just look at the 21 notes, I will see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the one I'm most excited about.
Nice. Cool. Okay. I'm psyched about that too now. I did not know that was almost real. Cool. Okay. Oh, thank you. Wait.
That's my project, and because I do a full day session on what's new Java. And if you take a look at the README, what I did is categorize probably the important parts. Yeah, so down there.
Where?
So, and when they were released, so JDK 21 record patterns and what is in preview.
Nice. Draft, nice.
Yeah, and then there's that, and there's string templates in, I don't know, is that preview now, Jeanne? I think so, right?
Yeah, that's still preview.
Yeah. So with those templates, you can do string interpolation.
Oh, finally.
Yeah, I will be excited about that when it's out of preview, but that's a feature I want to use in my real code, so I can't get excited about it in preview, whereas main method I can.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm very excited. Actually, I'm going to look at this in more detail because I use this all the time in TypeScript and JavaScript, and it's been bugging me that it's not in Java. So.
Yeah, I use a lot in Groovy.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that, and here's the thing, the great thing about Java, they don't do things just because others languages are doing it. Like they really, 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 really think about things and the implications of it. And from what I heard when they, I guess one group, they were showing that, and people were like, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do this? Again, people on Mount Stupid who haven't really thought the problem through are just like, why don't you do this? But they thought through a lot, and I guess there were some vulnerabilities just the way other languages did, and so they didn't want to do that. So they did a better job with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I could tell when they introduced text blocks that that they were doing things incrementally. I figured they would have interpolation later, So
right.
I love text blocks, and I appreciate not having to wait for everything to be ready to use them.
Yes,
I love it. Yeah, it's a good idea. I like statements before super. So when you do subclassing, how you have to call super first.
Oh, thank God.
And so now what you could do is scroll down a little bit. Now what you could do is this it? No, keep going. You could do stop right there. That one right there. You could do validation before calling up the stack, so you could save some time.
That is wonderful. That is
cool.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I have some other examples there, but yeah.
And I think what I'm going to start doing, and maybe I'll point to your repo. I think I'm going to point to your repo, Dano.
Yeah, and I have some tests there, so you can run every part if you like.
Nice.
I need to put a license on it, but I'll make it open source.
Yeah, we'll put this in the show notes. So this is because so what we're, for those who are listening to it, what we're looking at is Dano has a repo of just new or different JDK features over time and examples of them. And what I'm going to do is give this to some of my clients who, because I told them, I've said, one of the main benefits you get for upgrading beyond JDK 8 or 11,
Yep.
so you get, performance benefits and stuff. And they're always like, yeah, I don't know. And I always mention there's always great new language features, but they don't know which ones I'm talking about. And if I were to pick a random one, then I've talked about virtual threads, but that's only related to performance. It's not related to developer productivity and developer joy, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
like text blocks in of itself, I think is like, and the thing I talk about is like, if you want to, I'm all about testing on your local machine as much as you can before deployment. Like it'd be great just to slap in some JSON and, parse it just to make sure your parsing works. You don't need a server. You don't need anything else like that.
Right.
You just parse and, build up from there. But yeah, keep it small. Absolutely.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. If you want to scroll down, I think, I don't know if that was formally my pick, but
yeah, what was your formal pick?
Maybe it was. Yeah, I do like the pattern matching and the record patterns. So I may just go with that since everyone else chose other items. But yeah, I think it's great.
Nice.
I took the easy one.
Well, I'm picking the easy
virtual threads.
I picked the easy one too.
Yeah.
From the same perspective, I'm like, okay, this is something where I can fundamentally see a big impact on a lot of the applications that I work with. So I like it. And I really don't like reactive programming. I'll just come out and say it.
Well, that's a thing. I think the virtual threads is killing that off.
That's what I'm hoping. And actually, so I have a presentation where I talk about it, implementation in different. I go over reactive stuff first, and then I talk about the virtual threads, and then I talk about which application servers support it and which don't. And like Tomcat and Jetty already support it. So I think what I'm going to try and do, if I have time for the next time I do the presentation, is just do like a craptaculous benchmark of like a simple app, like a reactive version. I might use Quarkus or something like reactive, all in JDK 21, reactive, no virtual threads, and just see what difference it makes from a throughput perspective on like AWS or something.
That would make for a real good presentation.
Yeah, and at least it'll be fun, but it'll be interesting to see, because I think you just basically are going to get better throughput for free, which saves you money. So it seems like a logical choice to me. So
yeah, Keto, click on that one, unnamed patterns and variables, JEP 443.
443.
Yeah, two more down. Yeah, there you go. This one, I can't wait for. This one's still in preview, I believe. But scroll down. And so if you don't use something, I think just keep going down some more. I think there's a setup.
Unused.
Yeah, keep going. And yeah, why can't I see it here? Oh, there it is, like right there. Like see that int remove, like you're doing a remove and you're assigning it to a variable, but you don't need it, or you need to pattern match. And like the bottom one there has int x, comma, int underscore. So if you don't want to create a variable name, you just replace it with underscore.
Nice.
Oh, so it's like a throwaway variable, basically.
Yeah, I like that term. Yeah.
Huh.
Nice.
That's kind of handy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
Unnamed pattern.
So like with a pattern match, that color point there, color point is a pattern match with point int x, but I don't care about that variable and I don't care about that variable, or whatever combination that you'd like.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good
language.
Unnamed pattern is a really great name for a band.
We're unnamed pattern. Welcome to New York.
Nice. All right, cool. All right, so we could talk about JDK 21 all day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to pick Jeanne's brain a bit, because she's been gracious enough to join us here. So I have a whole bunch of random questions.
Okay.
But before we start, and I can actually not hit random things behind me that you can't see. Before we start, so I don't know a whole lot about you other than the fact that I've met you at conferences and you've written tons of books. So tell us about your background, how you got into Java, and how you got into writing Java language certification books.
So when I was in kindergarten, we went to the Computer Museum in Boston, and they had this gimmick where you got a free admission if you bought a ticket to the Children's Museum. So my mom's like, sure, we'll walk through the Computer Museum and then we'll go to the Children's Museum, and I wouldn't let her leave. So we went back a number of times that I do remember when I was older, and I asked her, what did we do when I was in kindergarten? Because there's nothing there that you can't do that. Like, you have to read. And she's like, you asked us to read you everything, and you insisted on doing things that you weren't old enough to understand. So as long as I can remember, I've loved computers. And then when I was 12, I took a programming course, and it's like, this is it. This is what I want to do. Java happened to be a language that I got a job in, and then I started learning a lot about it. But like, I knew I wanted to code from an early age. As far as certifications, I had the opportunity to work on contributing some like a chapter and a half to Kathy and Bert's book, but I hadn't taken the cert at that point. So I was like, I'm going to get on that. Then I took the cert. Then more time passed, and then I had the opportunity to write my own book. I was presented with two opportunities at the same time. One of them was writing the Java 8 certification book for Cybex, and the other was writing the second edition of Well-Grounded Java Developer. And you know, what kind of developer doesn't choose the Greenfield project? And there we were.
Nice. Is there, I got a question then. Since you knew you would like to do programming and computers, is there and I know this is a weird question, is there a certain aesthetic that you like about programming? Like for me, it's the look of code and the way it looks on the screen and me typing on the keyboard.
No, it's the problem solving. It's that you get to get deep into a problem, and then you have the satisfaction of conquering it.
Yeah. Nice.
Did you say Java was the first language you used? Or
no, Java was not the first language I used. It was the language I used for one of my internships in my first full-time job. Okay. My first language, I suppose, was BASIC, in that you had to say you knew BASIC in order to take this class. So I read a couple of things and said I knew BASIC. But the first language I wrote any code in was C++.
Okay.
At 12. It's not the best first language, by the way, for a 12-year-old. Easier languages, better.
Yeah. If Java disappeared, where would you go?
I don't know. It's hard to predict the future. If it disappeared right now, probably Python or Kotlin if the whole JDK hasn't disappeared. But it depends on the needs, right? You don't really pick a project based on the language. You pick the language based on the project. So it would be depending on what I was doing.
Right.
Sounds like a political answer. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, it's a hypothetical problem, so I'm okay with sitting on the fence.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I would think something similar because I really like Swift, but wouldn't really choose Swift unless you're going to develop for an Apple platform, most likely, right? So you have to use what you're going to be working with.
Yeah.
Right.
You graduated college. Did you major computer science, or did you pick something else?
I did major in computer science.
And then you worked at the same place like your entire career. Am I right?
Interned at different places. I interned at Payne Weber and JP Morgan. Both of those were the year before they got acquired by UBS and Chase, respectively. Nice. And then for my first entry-level job, I worked where I'm at now. I've been doing different things. So while I've had the same employer, I've not had the same job for 21 years. And also technology changes. So even when you're doing the same so-called job, you're still doing different things. And it certainly hasn't gotten boring.
I think that is awesome. I mean, I think that says a lot about you, but also a lot about where you work, that it must not suck. So
it's true.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. And that they treat you well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. All right. So I have a few questions here, but Josh and Dano, why don't you ask questions?
Like Java style questions or just interview questions?
Well, I know Dana wants you to ask us questions. So I don't want to get to that yet.
No, we won't get to that one yet. What was the stumper? What was the feature of all the Javas? Since you started, sounds like from JDK 5 onward was probably your
I learned
first version.
JDK 1.3, but
Okay.
that was like 25 years ago, so my memories of it are a little shady.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we started using Java 1.4 at work, and I taught everybody about regular expressions. I like regular expressions a lot.
Yeah.
So I remember that. And since those were introduced in 1.4, that means I had to have started professionally on 1.3.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't remember being on 1.3. I just remember the regular expression presentation when 1.4 was new.
Do you remember like any of one of the features in Java that you were just like it was just so hard?
And it's one of my favorite features now. It was streams. I had to read and hear the presentation on streams so many times before it finally clicked. But once it clicked, I was good.
All right.
Nice. So I've seen at conferences before and whatnot. When you are at the conferences, what are you usually speaking on? What are your talks usually about?
Sometimes certification, sometimes what's new in Java, and then sometimes random things that I think would be fun to present about. Like at UberConf, I presented on regular expressions and static analysis tools. The regular expressions one I've been submitting for years and nobody wanted it. So it was nice to be able to finally do that presentation.
Yeah.
How was the turnout? Was it like decent?
Turnout was good, although I did get an evaluation from someone who had low expectations coming in and coming out, and I'm wondering why he didn't choose a different talk.
They do that all the time.
Like, I came and I didn't expect to learn anything. It's like, why did you come? But the people who participated were good and interested, and I enjoyed giving it.
Oh,
yeah. It's like someone was forcing them to attend that work. Oh, yeah, I get that.
Maybe they were. Like, maybe they were there with their colleagues and they said everyone's going to go to a different session, and they drew the short straw.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. But regular
when I choose sessions,
great.
I don't choose the one where I expect to learn nothing and hate the topic.
Yeah.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah.
How are you, Jeanne? How are you at Regex Golf?
Regex Golf. I don't know what Regex Golf is. This seems like something I
No,
need to suck up all of my time for later.
So, yeah, I know. Sorry, Jeanne, I just got you addicted to something. There are a few websites for Regex Golf. Here, let me come up with one.
Right.
But the
first
idea
one I clicked
is,
on Google says something went wrong. That's great.
Yeah. Regex Golf are, Alf and you, I think. Oh, yeah, something went wrong.
It's down
their
right
site
now.
is down.
Well, I'll look at it later when it comes up.
Yeah, I'll just describe
I did
it.
find a regular expression crossword puzzle site. That was fun and wasted a lot of time.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, but I will keep this tab open and try it again when it comes up.
Yeah, no problem. This one is you have these words that you have to match, and you have these words that you cannot match.
Oh, fun.
What's the regex for it? Yeah. Yeah.
That totally sounds like it will occupy a lot of my time.
I have no interest in regular expression.
No, it's wizarding skills by far.
And I am not.
Yeah, I had one. Yeah, I had one where I needed to do a find and replace of code. And, most of the time people see me fumble and bumble around the code, but this time I had a win, and it was match this method, open paren, and I don't care what's inside of the paren, and close paren, and a dot, and just replace the innards or replace the outer part. Yeah, when you got to do that, that's a pure win right there. That's good regex satisfaction there.
That is cool.
I did a trick at Java 1. I stupidly did a lab on running Jenkins and Sonar and stuff using Docker. I didn't realize that people come to those things with corporate laptops where they can't install things. I would never do that again.
Yeah.
But that's a good idea for.
Yeah, it was a great idea, but in reality, it's like, oh, I brought my laptop. I'm not allowed to do anything on it. Like, okay, enjoy your neighbor's company. Oh, my neighbor works at the same place. Yeah. They can't do anything either.
Yeah, that's why I use Gitpod for my workshops, because it's just development environment online. So yeah, that's fantastic. So you mentioned What's that?
I was going to say I might end up doing some workshops next year, so I might be bugging you for some tips.
Yeah, totally. Gitpod is great. But Jeanne, you were mentioning static analysis, and I remember the Maven plugins for, was it PMD and a few others? Are those the ones that we should go to, or are there some new ones that we should pay attention to?
Yeah.
I guess, what are the old ones and what are the new ones, if you don't mind telling
PMD and
us?
Sonar are the best, although I did cover a couple of others in my talk. But like Keto said, you explore things while you're doing a presentation, and I hadn't used all of them before I prepared, but PMD and Sonar are the best, just in different ways.
I'm really Sonar. What does PMD focus on?
PMD doesn't run on a server like Sonar does, so it's just the scanner. You can have the built-in rules, or you can write your own using Java or XPath.
Okay.
So it's still static analysis, but local.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's a lot faster, which is good if you want to gate.
Which makes sense. Okay.
And I don't
Writing
know
your own
this
rule
one.
in Sonar is a lot of fun, but it's also a good amount of work.
Right.
Right. In PMD, you can write the thing in XPath, shove it in your config file, and call it done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I use something in Scala called Scala FMT, and you apply the rules for formatting, and even IntelliJ would adhere to whatever rules you want to specify. So that way, if you have a workplace way that you want to format the code, it doesn't matter what IDE you use; it'll just format it anyway. I've never heard if there was a tool in Java. Do you know, or anybody here know?
Or just formatting,
like where it's just a tool. Yeah, you could just describe the format of code, what methods should look like, where the braces should be, and stuff like that. Is there anything that applies a format that's that you could plug into your CI/CD? I never knew this question.
There's stuff that complains it's wrong, but I can't think of anything that fixes it for you.
Yeah, and
bummer. Yeah,
I was just looking at Prettier, which is popular in front end projects, but
yeah,
I do not.
That's what I was.
Yeah, I do not see Java support.
Wow.
You can build templates out in some IDEs and whatnot, but that's not the same thing. I mean, you can.
Right, because that's IDE specific. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I always wish that you could run, like, just take that part of the IDE and just run it from the command line as like a Git hook or something.
That's true.
I know it. You can make it like, optionally do it, but I kind of want to force it. Yeah, it'd be nice if someone did Prettier for Java, because they do Angular, Vue, and TypeScript and Markdown, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Jeanne. So I know you work with a lot of younger developers. So I'm kind of curious, like, what you're seeing with younger developers and teaching them Java stuff. What is your perspective? What do they like? What do they hate?
Right. So the reason I'm so excited about the main method is that, right, that they don't like when you have to explain what public static void is on their first day of class.
Right.
They like being able to do things, and they like the ecosystem. Our team has definitely evolved from, you just type in the code, to they now have a build tool, they have CI, they have the certification that fails if it's wrong, they have coding standards, they have commit standards. They even have a library and use it in GitLab, GitHub to host it so that other teams can use it. So we have a lot of kids in our team, so we have a lot of projects, but they've built up a lot, and that comes a long way from, I remember when I was pairing them with them to write this little Gradle thing that picked which robot we were deploying to. And like, that feels so quaint compared to where they are today.
I can definitely see that. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that new feature. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of a new feature that is available on dev.java now, the playground. Has anybody used that?
Playground, yeah.
That's kind of great for teaching people or just quickly learning new features. Like if you want to use something in JDK 21, you want to check it out, just go there and type it in without writing the whole class. And
maybe that's what they're doing. Yeah, so this is actually, I'll put this in the show notes, but it's dev.java/playground. You can just type in Java and have it run, which is pretty much what you can do with a lot of languages these days, right? But it's nice to see it on Java. As well. So that's one of the ways I learned TypeScript, is the TypeScript playground is really good. Like, has tons of little examples for different things and everything. So
The other thing they use a lot, I keep forgetting what the feature is called, but on VS Code and many other IDE is live share, right? You can share your session essentially, so they can all code on it at once, and it's really fun seeing the new kids do that because nobody really knows what's going on, but there's changes everywhere.
That is
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think JetBrains is Code With Me. I think is the name of that one.
Yeah.
I've never used it though.
I've used it a couple of times, and it would be cool to see that.
But when you use that at work, you have 2, maybe 3 people, right? We have like 20. And that's what makes it cool. There's just stuff happening everywhere.
That's great.
But
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. All right.
I have, yeah, it's hard. I think it's, or maybe let me turn around and ask it as a question. Do you feel kind of bummed out like teaching beginners and knowing you have a constraint that you can't use a lot of the later versions? Like, I don't know if you can, like records, right? You probably, discuss, here's how you create a class, but, I don't want to pollute your brains with stuff that you're not going to use, or at least for a while. There's this thing called records.
Because they don't need the advanced functionality for what they're doing. So it doesn't feel like a stretch. What I did feel is when they started using VS Code, it was nowhere near mature enough with respect to Java like it is now. So you would want to do a basic refactoring, like rename a class, and it would rename the file, and then they'd have to sit there and rename all the references. And that would make me crazy because like, what? This is a waste of time. But they didn't know it was a waste of time. So they're diligently sitting there manually doing the refactoring and proud when it's done. And I'm sitting there like,
right? I know.
But VS Code has come far enough since then that I'm not sitting there cringing when they're trying to do stuff anymore. And I appreciate it.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we see that.
Yeah, I find that hard because I do teach every once in a while at beginning Java, and I'm like, there's records, like it's right there. It's just like a one-liner, but no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me ask you a question. Do you teach setters? You talk about setters, or do you just say no? Oh, really? Okay.
They're useful in the type of programming that we're doing, and therefore we teach them.
All right.
That's what
creating robot code is very different than creating enterprise Java code. I will say that.
Okay. All right.
See that. So did I put this question about Java and other languages, or was that somebody else? It must have been me.
Yeah.
This is my thing. I remember what I did yesterday. Since you probably have had a deeper dive into Java language features than most people, how do you see it competing with other languages like Python or JavaScript or TypeScript, or even like JVM languages like Kotlin?
Right. So every language is different. I know politics and sitting on the fence. But there are definitely features in every language that I wish were in other languages. And then there's also the features that are different between languages. So like between def, val, and var, I'm constantly typing the wrong one when I'm doing something because I'll be sitting there in Groovy typing Java or JavaScript and typing Java Groovy and like that confuses me more. There's also the difference of, Python's not a compiled language. And, there's benefits of that and there's some not benefits of that, right? So there are some things I like about compiled languages. So they're different and I try to think of them as different. Sometimes I'll use an influence of another, like, oh, well, Python would do that in a good style. So let's do that style here in the Java thing we're doing. But I try not to have a favorite language and bias things because, again, they're languages and they're features.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. And I mean, I really love TypeScript. I don't like JavaScript very much. But since JavaScript is a superset since TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, clearly there's JavaScript features I like too.
Something I really enjoy doing. One of the things I do at work is support the Sonar instance on the server. And every time you upgrade it, there's new rules. I really enjoy meeting with the language experts from each of the major languages we use at work to go over which rules should be enabled in the new version of Sonar and the severity, because I get to have good discussions with the .NET people and the Python people and the TypeScript people and so on and so forth. And that's really cool. But it's also interesting as I facilitate the session because some of the things we'll go through super fast, because it's like, oh yeah, that rule is in the Java rule set. We analyzed it. Here's what we think. Moving on. And then there's things like, I don't even know what that feature does. Let's talk about it. And like that makes it fun because we get to spend the time on the things that are unique to their language.
Mm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
that is cool. Get to kind of compare a little bit better there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Has anyone here worked with Go at all?
Nope.
I do Go templates with Helm. That's about it.
I can see that. Okay. Yeah, there's a couple languages that I've been meaning to play with just because, you know, a lot of people I know have dabbled with them, and Go would be one, and Rust, and
Rust is hard. Like I know a lot of languages, and I even do Haskell, but Rust is like has some tough stuff in there.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I'd like it, but I feel like I should at least play with it.
Yeah. Go is interesting because I think they wanted to create a 1980s language where it's like, yeah, we just removed all the hard stuff so that we could just focus on what you need to do. But then forgot about, like, there's a reason why we make things hard. And I think a lot of languages are like that. So, yeah.
All right. So Dano, did you want Jeanne to ask us to stump us?
Yes. I don't know. Do you have any questions for us?
I do.
All
right, here we go.
I have 3. They're at different levels of difficulty. So I'm going to start with what I think is the easiest one.
Do we just blurt it out, or you want us to beep, or what do you? How would you like to conduct this?
I think just blurt it out is good.
All right.
So the first question is, do you know the difference between arrays.asList and list.of?
Yes.
And it is?
Oh, arrays as list is returning some sort of like weird list, like a wrapped array list behind the scenes, but it's unmodifiable. But list of is truly immutable. So you can create. There's an unmodifiable and an immutable. But in order to make an immutable in Java, you have to create it and then immediately unmodify it. But I think you get an unmodifiable. So I think somewhere there's a source somewhere.
You were so close. List.of, you're correct that it's immutable. Arrays.of gives you a fixed list, so fixed size back list. So you can change the values, but you can't make it bigger or smaller.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I forgot about that point.
Yeah, but you were super close on that one. So good job.
Wait, that was the easy one?
So what I think is the easy one. The problem with these things is whether it's easy or hard is depends on whether you know the answer, right? So like maybe. Okay, the next one is what I think is the medium one. So you know in text blocks, they start and end with 3 quotes. If you want to have 3 quotes in the middle of your text block, how many of the quotes do you have to escape?
3 quotes in the middle.
Hmm.
I don't know. I can guess, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
I thought you had to do a backslash. Is this a trick question?
You do. The question is how many backslashes do you need? 1 or 3?
I'm going to say 1.
Yeah, Keto got it. You need 1.
1.
Ooh.
1 is enough to
nice
tell the
job,
compiler that this is intentional and I'm not ending the string here. Woohoo.
Oh, wow.
Good job,
Okay,
Keto.
I didn't know that one. Good job, Keto. Nice.
Yeah.
And the
That's
third
really good.
question, which is super hard, and I will be pleasantly surprised if any of you know, is does single file source code execution work with more than one class? And if so, when?
I think I know this one.
Go for it.
And I think this is, to me, a hard one. Is a record a class as well?
Sure.
So you can't have them top level, I think is what the answer is. But you can have classes, you can create classes inside of, no, you have to create classes inside of classes. You can't have a top level. So you can't have siblings in the same file, but within one class, you could have an inner class. And then I think you could have a class inside of a method, but of course, like anonymous classes could be done anywhere. But I think the only thing is that they cannot be top level.
Oh, you're going to love this. They can be top level as long as the first one has the main method in it.
Oh,
No. What? That is crazy. Oh my gosh.
I did advertise
know
this
that.
one as I don't think anyone's going to know. So we've all met
Yeah.
expectations here.
What? Oh my gosh. Wow, they could be top level. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow, that is
So I was
insane.
asked to come up with some tricky questions for this, and I have achieved my goal.
You did.
Right on.
I know I'm not ready for the exam.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, only the first two of those questions are the type of thing that would be on the exam. The third one is just super obscure because I wanted to make sure I had one that would probably trick you.
Yeah,
Well,
no, that did.
First one was
I got it.
because
Yeah.
I've used both of those before, but I couldn't remember. And I knew list of was unmodifiable, but I couldn't remember what was different about arrays.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of things like that where you're like, I kind of remember there's something weird, but I don't remember what it was.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think unmodifiable is no guarantee that no, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So there's a new interface. So here's my question. There's a new interface in 21 that will adhere to the order in any kind of collection, like an array list.
Right.
You can have like you go to the index or whatever and repeat back. What is the name of that new interface in 21?
I know the feature is called sequence collections. I don't know the name of the interface because I haven't studied JavaScript 21.
I think it is. I think it is sequence collections. Yeah. So they put a new interface for array list and a few others, things that you can sequence. So that way, all you need is that interface, and you could just sequence anything you need. Yep. Excellent.
The only reason I didn't remember the name of it, but I remember that feature because there's that Inside Java podcast, which is really handy. Like they had a whole episode on the collection changes. So
you're right.
Wonderful.
There's sequence collection and sequence set and such.
Right?
Oh, sequence set is the other one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I only knew it because the name of the feature is sequence collection. So while I haven't done the deep dive into it, I have seen the name of the feature many times.
Nice.
All right,
Yeah.
so let's move on to picks. Now that we have been sufficiently challenged. So my pick is buffer.com, which is it is one of those tools that lets you cross post to different social media sites. I've been using a tool like this for years because I'm too lazy to post manually to different social media sites. So I was using one called Hootsuite for many years. But it basically got to the point where it was very focused on organizations that are trying to do social media presence stuff, and it got to be expensive and had way more features than I wanted. And it never supported Mastodon, and I'm really trying to do more stuff on Mastodon. And it's like, but I still want to cross post to Twitter and LinkedIn and everything, just so I can be consistent. And Buffer does Mastodon and Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, whatever. It's like really nice and easy to use, and it's been so pleasant that I've actually started posting more because of it, which is weird. And I was using it today because I was posting about how we were recording, even though they can't watch it live. And I was like, I actually like this. This is worth being a pick. I actually like it.
Good, wonderful.
So that's my pick.
All right.
I'm writing a note so I can look at that.
All right, you got a pick too, Josh.
Yep. So I've been using a lot. I'm not sure if anyone out there is using Apex, Oracle Application Express, to develop applications. This is something I looked at, a while back, but I never really got into it. It's basically using the Oracle front end to develop a database application, and very little code. You just drag and drop things and whatnot. Never got into that part of it so much, but something I did find useful if you're using an Oracle database is the Apex REST synchronization. And what this does is it enables you to automate synchronization from a REST API. So if you are using a cloud service or whatnot, you can utilize, make a fetch call from the REST API and grab that structure and actually make it into a table in the Oracle database. And then you can set it up to schedule and sync every, hour, every 10 minutes, whatever you want. And it's a good way to keep a local copy of your data if you're working with cloud databases. So the REST API, pretty nice to look at.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay.
Oh, no, we're just saying great, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to mention real quick was just I've been reading a book that I think everyone out there should take a look at, Developer Career Master Plan. This book is written by a few people from the Java community, actually, Heather Van Kira and Bruno Souza, and hopefully I said that last name correct. And these two, if you are in the Java community, you certainly know who they are. They are basically just in this book providing all of the wealth of information and knowledge that they have about being a good developer, getting hired as a developer, and getting promoted as a senior engineer, and utilizing open source to the best that you can. It's just a wonderful book, and I've been reading through it, and I've learned a lot from this book. I thought I knew a lot about being a part of the community, but read through this book and you'll learn a lot more. So just wanted to recommend that.
Wonderful. Oh, I love that.
I'll actually work with my Audible subscription too.
Nice.
All right, Jeanne.
Right. Mine is a little less technical, but Eventbrite has started charging for free events, which is annoying. It's $10 a month US.
For free?
We tried out Ticket Source. We didn't wind up using it because we ran out of time configuring it before our event, but it seems promising. And there's a couple of other free event places out there. So, but worth considering well before your next event.
Cool.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah, this was cool. All right. Dan, you've got the next one. This other one is not.
All right. Okay. So mine is WireMock. I actually have a presentation, and my presentations are usually online as well. But it's called Next Gen Testing Tools for Java, and I talk about a whole set of maybe 4 or 5 different things that I think are really good, like jQuick, which I think was a pick from before. No? Okay. Yeah, I have jQuick. Oh, go ahead.
Probably was. Go ahead.
Maybe. Yeah. So one of them is called Mock Server that I use, but that's not my pick. Oops. Oh, yeah, there we go. Test 1, 2. Yep. So it is Mock Server is a way that you can mock out a server, so you can make a call to it. I still like Mock Server a lot, but I was taking a look at WireMock. So wiremock.io is going to be my pick. And so what you do here is you set it up, and you could have it just like have a canned answer. So you could just say, here's my endpoint that I'm serving up, and this is the thing that I needed to return. So that way I can use whatever library I need to hit against that. And then I would successfully do my test. You can mimic when things are hard, when things are not responding that quickly. So you could set up, what to do in that particular case and how to handle that situation. Of course, you could mock things not returning correctly. And so you could, again, I'm a big fan of like testing as much as you can before you even, deploy, or even before you even commit your code. So there's that one. It also records. So you can hit record, or you can program record on it. It does have an admin UI. I haven't tried that yet, but it can record you hitting an endpoint like somewhere on the internet, and would get the response, record that, and then just keep that. And so that way, future calls, everything's already cached there. So in case you need to work on something, you could do so.
Nice.
And they have like scripts, so you can have like state, the first time I call it, then this is what comes up. And then the second time I call it, this is what will come up. So you could change state each and every time.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah, it sounds nice.
yeah.
All right. So I know Jeanne has a hard stop. So before we move on to the events, I wanted to say thank you very much for joining us, Jeanne.
Yeah.
Thanks. It was fun.
It was a pleasure
Great
having you.
having you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will see you somewhere. All right. What was I going to say? All right. So let's go ahead and wrap up. It's actually fairly timely for us. So All right, so there are some other podcasts in the Pubhouse Network. There's Breaking into Open Source, Off Heap, and Java Pubhouse. You can find them all at pubhouse.net. And we have some events coming up. So I really think this podcast will be out before December 4th. That's the next event we have. So DevOps Vision December is actually is that a no fluff conference?
Yep. Yep. I'll be at that one.
So hey, that's in a, that one's not in Clearwater. Here, I'll fix this for you.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that was my fault. Yeah.
All right. Why don't you go ahead? I'll fix this. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Tech Leader Summit, DevRel Experience, and ArchConf are there in Clearwater. Take your pick from the 4th through the 14th. I'll be at like 3 of those. I'm not a DevRel Experience nor Tech Leader, but I'll be in DevOps Vision. I'll be talking about Canary deployments and Nix OS there. And then there's ArchConf, where I'm going to be talking about patterns and architecture and other things like that. So nice. That's what will be there. Yeah.
Basically.
So these conferences are both or there's a few of them in Clearwater here. Are they, and they're running at the same time? Are they just in the same building, or are they?
Yeah, they're on the same building, but you could tell by you know what? I guess there's one in parallel there, Tech Leader Summit and DevRel Experience. So yeah, I guess those are running in parallel, but yeah, I think all in the same hotel, the Opal Sands Hotel.
Okay.
I missed Charles Barkley by a little bit. He was there hanging out, and I came back. I came back to the bar, and they're like, "Oh, you missed Charles Barkley." I'm like, "Oh."
So if you want to go party in Florida, Clearwater, Florida, which actually is near where my parents live, it's a lovely town. There's a beach.
There is a beach.
Go and go to like 4 conferences. Awesome.
Yep.
All right. So if you're not going to be in sunny Clearwater, December 5th is the Jakarta one live stream, which is online. So you can sit back at your desk, and in between work, you can learn a little bit about Jakarta EE and related technology, cloud native, and all that kind of fun stuff. So there's a virtual PyR conference, Josh. That's new.
Yeah, actually, I got an email about this a few days ago, and I just looked it up again shortly a while back and added it because it looks interesting. It's going to be, of course, about Jakarta EE and all things PyAra, I think. So it's the first virtual PyAra conference, December 14th, if you're interested.
Cool.
Online.
Wonderful.
And then going into January, Code Mash, which is one of my favorite conferences. It's in Sandusky, Ohio, January 9th through 12th. And I will be there talking about something. I don't remember what. Probably about virtual threads, I think, is the topic. Virtual threads are AI coding tools, or both. And then Josh, JChampions Conf.
Yeah, this will be the 4th annual JChampions Conf happening in January, starting on the 25th and ending the 30th. And it's all online, all Java champions, great content. So check it out.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for sticking with us for another episode of the Stack D podcast. And stay tuned. We will have another episode out in another month or so. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, everyone.